Beginning with Gareth Southgate's massive cope. Now, I watched this interview on Sky. It wasn't worth taking clips out of because they messed up their stupid Zoom presentation. And so they had the people on the Zoom call presented for most of it, so it kind of ruined the clips. But basically, he spends a lot of time lavishing praise on the team, saying they played particularly well. Now, I've heard from friends, and we'll cover in other sections. Now, I'm not a football fan, so I don't know whether they played well or not, but I've heard the complete opposite from people who are football fans. So I guess we just have to move on because Gareth Southgate has said, well, they played great. And everyone's like, okay, well, we can't talk about that. Let's talk about racism. And that's all the national dialogue has been. It's been constant for the part since the defeat, in fact. Constant racism. So, okay, well, let's talk about it.
In Parliament right now, that's what the entire Parliament is talking about.
Yes, they're currently debating this in Parliament. And the Labour Party will say, well, we need to do something about these online racists. And Boris has already gone, yes, we'll ban all of these online racists.
So it's already illegal as well.
It's already illegal, yeah. But anyway, so this is just one example from LBC, where it was a chap called Richard who says he's seething. He's been seeing racism for the past 35 years, listening to the abhorrent, obscene gestures they're giving to the footballer wearing an England shirt. 35 years has gone and nothing has changed. Seems not true, but I mean, maybe I'm not a football fan. Every footballer of colour dignified themselves by letting it go over their heads. I could not do that. But anyway, so it's a perennial problem in his opinion. And I think that honestly it just stems from the fact that you're dealing with a tribe. The working class England football fans are a tribe of people, and you're acting as if they shouldn't understand themselves as a people. And unfortunately, I think that's going to be the case everywhere. But then after condemning just the regular people of England, we get on to Priti Patel being the problem, because of course it's Priti Patel that's the problem. This was a footballer, and Anton Ferdinand. Yeah, who
like some 12-year-old said the N-word online, and therefore Priti Patel is evil.
Yes, that's exactly how they got to. I'm someone who's received a load of racial abuse on social media. You would never find me saying it's okay to boo a gesture that is against racial equality. I don't know how many times we can say that it is a football family. This is not political. That's a political statement. That is nothing but a political statement. Speaking of Priti Patel, he then said, she is saying that it is a political gesture when the people who are doing it are telling her the reasons. Yeah, but the reasons are political. I don't understand how she can go against that, and how she is somebody who has been racially abused herself. It just doesn't make sense. That's because you're viewing this through a one-dimensional political lens, and there is a political lens adjacent to that also opposes racism, but doesn't oppose racism in the same way as you, and in fact you have a contradicting position there. But again, you don't know anything about this, do you? You've not read anything about the people involved. You don't know why they say that the UK is structurally or institutionally, systemically racist. You don't even know what their definition of racism is. Because by the liberal definition, we can actually get away from institutional racism, which I think we have. But of course, by the woke progressive definition, our entire society is a form of racism. And so it's no wonder that Priti Patel, being a conservative, is like, well, I'm not going to agree to that. She shouldn't agree to that. And that's, again, not something I think that anyone having this debate in Parliament understands at all. But anyway, carrying on, more people said that Priti Patel was the source of the racism. This was... everyone thinks that this brown woman is the cause of white supremacy in England, because common sense. This was a player called Tyrone Mings, one of the England players. Priti Patel, of course, herself, who has been subject to racial abuse, because these things can happen.
That's not actual racist abuse according to the left, because she's not actually brown-skinned according to the left, because she's in power. I guess she's not. She tweeted out, I'm disgusting that the England players who have given so much for our country this summer have been subjected to vile racist abuse on social media. There's no place in our country, and I back the police to hold those responsible accountable. I mean, like we've already said, it's a crime to be a racist online, so... why wouldn't she say that? She can be against racism. She doesn't have to be a communist to be against racism. She could be a liberal or, conservative in this case, and also be against racism, and also be a person of colour who thinks differently. And this is a position that Priti has had to defend with a great amount of energy, because, of course, the left simply don't understand that not all non-white people think the same. They seem to think that if you're not white, then you must agree with left-wing politics. Yeah. And if you don't vote for Biden, you ain't black.
Exactly. It's exactly the same philosophy that we are seeing here. Right? And so Tyrone replied to that, saying, "You don't get to stoke the fire at the beginning of the tournament by labelling our anti-racism message as gesture politics, then pretend to be disgusted when the very thing we're campaigning against happens." She can be opposed to your gesture politics of anti-racism and also against people racially abusing you, Tyrone. This is not a contradiction. It's perfectly congruent, and it's disgusting that so many of the Conservatives and people who should know better are just agreeing with the same. Oh, Tyrone's right. No, he's not. He's absolutely not right.
And we've got the example before in 1938, I think it was, when the England team did the Nazi salute. You could label that gesture politics and be like, well, we shouldn't be doing that. And he's like, no, it's not just gesture politics. We stand by it. I was like, well, then it's evil. Don't do it.
Yeah.
In the same way with your modern socialist salute. It is also.
And again, remember, this began because of George Floyd. This didn't begin because of something that happened in England to a black person or anything like that. No, this has had to have been imported from the outside, from radical left-wingers in America.
Interpreting a killing which was not racist.
Yes.
No evidence of racism came out of the George Floyd case, nor was it even alleged.
No, it was never alleged, at least in the court documents. No. But anyway, so one MP decided that they were going to rightfully say something about this. And this MP, this Tory MP, said, "We are proud of our England team who have had the support of the whole country over recent weeks, but please focus on football, not politics. If you win for England, you win for everyone." Now, that's a sensible statement, because what Tyrone has done here has taken a particular partisan talking point and said, right, everyone has to agree with this, which is not how partisan talking points work, especially when you're talking to your opposition, who definitionally don't agree with your partisanship. Of course they're not going to. Whereas if you were to depoliticize the England game and say, right, this is just for England fans, wherever you come from, whatever your stripe, you could have international England fans supporting it then, couldn't you? But instead, it's become one of those things where it's like, look, if you support England in the progressive mind, then you have to be in support of the communist politics that underpin bending the knee. And it was natural for the Conservatives to turn around and say, well, look, intuitively, we don't support them bending the knee. And actually, the England fans, if they disagree with that as well, they have a right to boo. And that's not a form of racism. That's a form of, in fact, liberal activism opposing communism. But, of course, former Tory party chairwoman Baroness Wolsey criticised Patel, saying that she was guilty of dog whistle politics. Dog whistling to people who think they're free and can oppose communism. "It's time to stop the culture wars that are feeding division," she said. "Dog whistles win votes but destroy nations." Sorry, who started the fire that Tyrone and Wolsey are complaining about here? Who was like, oh, well, everything's racist, everyone's a racist, we need to start worshipping a guy who died in America? Like, you're stoking the fire, Look, don't light the fire if you don't want it stoked. You didn't have to take the knee. You know, you could have done press conferences or something saying, look, we're really concerned about all of the racism that's happening in America and here now, apparently. And we could have had that conversation. Then you'd gone onto the pitch, sung the national anthem, and then gone and won a bunch of games. And everyone would be like, great. I don't care that their opinion off the pitch is whatever their opinion is, because of course everyone's going to have opinions outside of their profession that they are going to want to share. But instead, you made it a core part of the England team's aesthetic when they're playing their matches. It's not surprising that people were opposed to all of this. But anyway, of course, then we discovered that actually it was Boris Johnson that was the source of all the racisms. Gary Neville lost his absolute mind on LBC or somewhere, because Boris had said, again, just in the same way of Priti Patel, this England team deserves to be lauded as heroes. We'll get back to that, Boris. Not racially abused on social media. Those responsible for this appalling abuse should be ashamed of themselves. Yes, that's a right and proper statement from the Prime Minister of the country. There shouldn't be segments of the population that should be targeted for abuse based on their race. Agreed. Whether they be black, white, Jewish, whatever, they should, Muslim, whoever it is, they shouldn't just be abused on social media or anywhere generally just for being what they are. Who can disagree with that? Who can disagree? Well, but Gary Neville can disagree. How dare you? You promoted racism in the past. Yeah, that's right. Boris was just like, yeah, I'm pro-racism. Idiot. I'm just reading your breaking news, and it says the PM condemns a racist abuse of England players, says Neville. He was on Sky News, sorry. The Prime Minister said it was okay for the population of the country to boo those players who are trying to promote equality and defend against racism. Gary, there is more than one way to defend against racism, and promoting equality is a deeply political statement because you don't even know what you mean by equality. You don't know what you mean. And if I were to question you on this and probe you on this, your case would fall apart instantly. And you don't know that, obviously, but like anyway. But we had players lined up for 5 days on the bounce, and they're telling us that they were taking a knee against racism and to promote equality. Yeah, okay, that's the problem, though, isn't it, Gary? You know, you are choosing a partisan political position. Anyway, we had high-ranking ministers, including the Prime Minister in this country, saying it's okay for our population to boo them for taking the knee against racism and promoting equality. It is. It is okay for them to do that. That's what a free country is. A plurality of opinions. Your position of everyone must agree with me or else they're evil, or else we should treat them like the parasites that they are, is not really a very tolerant, inclusive, or diverse position to hold, is it?
It's not a liberal one either.
It's totally illiberal, in fact. But it's exactly the same sort of thing as socialist politics have always done, which is why the comparison to the 1930s is not inappropriate. But anyway, there has been so much division in this country over the last 2 or 3 years. The way Brexit was debated, not Brexit itself, Leave or Remain, but the actual way it was debated, it promotes division. Ah, yes. Agree with me or you're being divisive. Taking the knee of the past month against racism was ridiculed by top-ranking government officials. Yeah, you shouldn't have done it.
Good totalitarian mindset.
Yeah.
Like, agree with me or you're being divisive, comrade.
But I mean, don't
causing
get me wrong,
divisions
right?
in the ranks.
I don't think Gary Neville or whoever it is, I don't think this footballer is among our best and brightest thinkers. And I don't think he knows what any of this is about. I think he's taking everything on face value and being like, well, you're just saying you're for racism. No, I'm saying I'm not for communism, Gary. All right? I know you don't understand any of this, so I'm not going to go at you necessarily, but I do wish you just shut up before publicly embarrassing yourself like this. It's not about conservative or liberal, or Labour or Liberal Democrat. It's to do with integrity. It's to do with doing the right thing. Oh, well, God, thank God. Gary Neville has figured out what the right thing is. Everyone at home, stop what you're doing. Gary Neville knows what the right thing to do is, and it's not partisan political. Oh, that's... Thank God. Thank God someone's figured it out. The genius that is Gary Neville. Shut up, Gary. Honestly, you're just idiot. You're such an idiot. Literally, the founders of Black Lives Matter, open communists, right? Read any critical race theory textbook. You realize it's a deliberate attempt to undermine liberal democracy. And Gary Neville's like, yeah, that's the right thing. Shut up. End of story. Anyway, let's just move on to people calling Boris Johnson a racist, because why wouldn't they, right? This Gary Lineker tweets out, booing and racially abusing the fine young men that play for our country has given us so much pleasure over the last month. No, wait, I've misread that. He's not in favour of booing. Booing and racially abusing the fine young men that play for our country and have given us so much pleasure and joy over the last month is not being an England fan. This goes for the pathetic fighting at the ground too. It's a minority, but it's a loud one and it's embarrassing. Which actually I agree with. I think that's a fair statement. It is a minority of people who do this, and I do think it is a loud one, and I do think they are embarrassing. I think it's also improper for them to make an excessive noise and go around trashing stuff. But I love this response. Phrases like, it's a minority, are why nothing changes. How could it be a minority when the literal Prime Minister is racist? He did not get there by accident. Well, then you're in a racist country, Jamaz in London. Don't know what to tell you. What can you take from that if that's your opinion? Of course, the Islamo leftists are not happy. This was my favourite Zara Sultana, my favourite Labour MP. Racism does not come from a vacuum. It's promoted from the top, whipped up by politicians like Johnson and Patel, who refuse to condemn the booing of the knee, and the right-wing newspapers who stoke bigotry and hate every day. Ooh.
Well, like that 12-year-old that's been arrested for this was subscribed to Boris Johnson's newsletter, looking up to him for his advice about how to talk to people online.
I guess, but I love what she's doing. I mean, what does she think she's doing if not stoking hate and bigotry against the right wing? That's all she does. That's her entire political platform. She can't think outside of terms that aren't stoking bigotry and hate against right wingers. She can't stop herself. But again, one of these things, you either agree with me or you're evil. That's her position. Okay, thank you, Islamo leftist. And then you move on to the typical leftist response. Let's hear from Dawn Butler. Oh, don't we all want Dawn Butler's opinion? You know this is going to be good. She's accused the government of deliberately going on a path of stoking hatred and division. Well, it's like the NPC update has arrived. They're all saying the same thing. Hatred and division, hatred and division. Agree with us or you're promoting hatred and division. Sorry, I'm not a communist. You're the one promoting hatred and division by demanding that people who don't agree with you or else. The government has been the most divisive government I've ever seen in my lifetime. They have stoked a culture war deliberately. They have... The gall that you would say this, Dawn. They have stoked a culture war deliberately.
#BLM.
They have said they're having this war on woke. The woke advocates are annoyed that the conservatives are opposing wokeness. Oh, I'm so sorry. We just don't agree with your racialized, the race consciousness view of the world. We want to transcend that. We want to be race blind, if that's okay. We'd like to be party politics, where you can choose which party you support rather than being forced to support the party for blacks or Muslims or whites or whatever. It's just awful. You're awful people, right? Woke is about being considerate to others. That's what woke means. It's not what woke means, Dawn. It's the opposite of what woke means. It means actually not having to consider others because you know everything about them because of their skin color. That's what woke means. That's why Priti Patel is being just strung up and beaten like a piñata by the left at the moment because she has particular skin color and doesn't agree with your politics. And so it's not just about being considerate to others. Otherwise, you wouldn't be quite so evil towards her, would you? Anyway, she noted she's optimistic for the future after seeing more positive anti-racists in society than there are racist. Really, that's amazing. That you can't find a racist constituency to be actually pointing at and arguing against. Where are the avowed racists? Where are the people who are saying we're pro-racism?
Where is the company tweeting out hashtag racism day?
Yeah. Where is it? Where is this? It's all fictional. That's why, Dawn. Because you're not understanding why people oppose you. You are opposed to liberty. People are in favour of liberty. Because, frankly, you look like you'd install a kind of tyrannical government that would openly persecute people, which is already happening, by the way. Because we'll get to that in a bit. Anyway, when we call out the burning injustices, what does the government do? Produces a race report that says racism doesn't exist. That's not what they said. But then you don't define racism in the same way as the government does. So we can't even have a conversation with you, really. Anyway, it's not just what you say, it's what you do and how you treat people. You will not silence us in this fight because society will be better when we eradicate racism. Society will be better when we call it out and eliminate it from all of the system and structural racism in our society. Okay, Hitler. All right? Okay, Hitler. I appreciate that you've got a particular constituency of society, a minority in society, as you say, that you want to eradicate. But are you sure you want to use that kind of language? I mean, not very liberal, not very tolerant. Sounds a bit Nazi-ish to me, which again is why if you replace the word racist with the word Jew, it just fits. I mean, just look, you will not silence us in this fight because when we eradicate Judaism, society will be better and when we call it out and eliminate it from the system and all the structural Judaism in our society.
Dawn Butler.
Dawn Butler, 2021. Unbelievable. And you complain that other people are stoking culture wars.
So the thing, like, racist humans are still humans, and therefore have human rights.
Mike Graham.
And Dawn Butler now.
And Dawn Butler. And Sadiq Khan when we get to that. Boris, of course, has said, no, I'm not responsible for people being racist on the internet, because he's not. Don't know why I have to say that. The Prime Minister made it clear that he wants to see everyone getting behind the team to cheer them on. Would have been a lot easier if the team wasn't actively out there dividing the political landscape with their gesture politics that for some reason it has to be about communism. Don't know why, but they are. But he made that clear, of course. To those who have been directing racist abuse at some players, I say, shame on you. I hope you crawl back under the rock from where you emerged. Ah, yes, the man who's pro-racism.
Like, name the man.
Yeah, name him. Like, name someone who's in favour of racism. Because this entire team played like heroes. Boris, we're going to come back to that. And I'm sure that this is just the start of the beginning of their achievements. I say, bring on Qatar next year, blah, 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 blah. Okay, Boris, arch-racist. Right, got it. The next one, of course, Boris is responsible for this. Don't know who James Moore is, but I love the one of the M parts he's got here. I'm not going to go so far as to call for a boycott of number 10. Boycott the Prime Minister. What does that mean? How do you boycott the Prime Minister? He's not a private service.
Refuse to pay taxes, I guess.
Yeah, okay, based. I mean, yeah. You know, but what does that mean? You dunce. But anyway, some Conservatives thought Priti Patel was responsible for this. Johnny Mercer, for MP for Plymouth, decides to open his mouth and ruin everything for everyone. The painful truth is that Mings is completely right. It's a very uncomfortable position the Conservatives are needlessly forcing ourselves into. Do I fight it or stay silent? Modern conservatism was almost so much more to me. We must not lose our way. That's right. If we're not agreeing and bowing down to everything the left demands of you, you're not a conservative. Nothing I haven't said before. I'm uncomfortable with some of my colleagues and their unnecessary interventions. Yeah, if you're not in favour of communist race politics, you're not a conservative. There are some people who are public fans and media personalities who are understandably angry at the loss. Oh, we're talking about the loss of the England team and how Gareth Southgate was effing useless, according to fans of football.
The issue politics instead of race politics.
If that's okay for 5 seconds with the, I was going to say proto-Nazis, but I think that's being too generous. The woke Nazis who are making everything about race. If we're going to actually talk about the performance on the pitch, because I don't know whether you remember, but they didn't win. Danny Baker, a well-known football fan, reacted to the loss saying Southgate was hardly the Messiah. Southgate is getting the expected soft ride from all the pundits. It's the old boys club. Effing disgraceful management from a winning position. We have been average for so many games now, more than the few that we won. Nobody mentions that though. Effing useless management by Southgate tonight, he said in one of many tweets. That early goal in the final match seems like a freak moment. We were not very good in most of this tournament. England was so weak an attacking threat. He decided that. It's down to me, he says useless Gareth Southgate. Jog on then, mate, would you? Well, that actually sounds like a football fan to me. That sounds like someone who's not a political activist. That sounds like someone who's actually concerned about the state of English football. And but there we go. I mean, lots of people were like, no, what are you talking about, man? I've always respected you. Delete this. He's just delivered the best result of the Euros ever. What happened to its coming home? Like, we're happy with the loss. No, are we? Why are we happy with the loss? Is that something we celebrate in England now? Is it losers? Because that's something that Keir Starmer celebrated. The England players are brilliant role models for Britain, on and off the pitch. The team's strength is its diversity, and the players' determination to stand up for what's right. Couldn't it have been winning? Couldn't it have been the victors? Couldn't it have been bringing home the cup? I'm not an England fan, an England football fan. I don't support England. I don't watch the matches. But at least at the very minimum, I'd like us to win.
Look at the dichotomy there. The team strength is not their experience or their rapid training or their talent or their excellence.
Ability to win tournaments.
Yeah, it's their diversity.
Yeah.
That's the strength.
I mean, This is just Corbyn's
back into
argument.
race politics.
This is exactly straight back in. This is Corbyn being like, yeah, well, we may have lost the election, but we won the argument. Oh, big deal. The Italians took home the cup. I mean, look at this next one, right? Let's cherish talent, folks, from Dawn French. They didn't win. They didn't win. If they're talented, it's not as footballers, is it? I'm probably being overly mean here, but
you could say they're better than all the teams that lost or worse. But
brilliant. Oh, they're better than the other losers.
But it is weird, when you lose a game, especially the final, and then you're just like, yeah, these guys are the best. I wonder what the Italians make of all this.
Well, I can tell you what the Italians make of it, actually, because I happen to have that lined up next. The Italians are bragging about humbling the Lions and turning them into cubs.
Yeah.
You proud of that? You proud of the Italians saying, actually, we crushed you? You're an embarrassment? Italy is better than England? Are you happy with that? I'm not really very happy with that.
God, that crown does look funny.
It's hilarious.
Why is that? They couldn't get him a better one?
It looks like it's literally a plastic thing from Burger King. But anyway, a paper called La Stampa said, this is the real Brexit. Claiming that England had wanted to win the match and climb to the pinnacle of Europe, to the position that the English love to be in since it allows them to look down on everyone else. Yes. That's the point of winning. That's the point of having high standards. That's the point of competing and being obsessive about the training and the standards that you apply to your team. They did, however, give high praise to the fight against racism and for diversity waged by the English players. Yeah, I'm sure they did, because that enabled them to win.
There really is the difference here. There's the rightist value of winning, hierarchy, all the rest of it, and there's leftist value of I don't care if we come third or fifth for every tournament in future as long as we're able to push racial politics.
Well, this is exactly
That's their victory. That's what victory looks like to them.
That's exactly the question. Is it about actually being the best? Is it about merit, or is it about, as they say here, listen to this, right? If the team is not the best on the pitch, the England team is not the best on the pitch, it is when it comes to ethics. Well, I'm sure that's easy for the winners to say.
The Labour Party didn't get elected, but at least they won the argument. That is that.
Exactly that. It's like, sorry, I thought we were competing for a cup here. I thought we were going to take something home. But never mind. I guess I don't know anything about football, right? Il Messegaro was less polite, stating, justice is served against these unpleasant English who booed our sacred national anthem. Sacred national anthem? You've been a country for 120 years. Shut up, right? A sacred national anthem. Okay, we've been fascist for more than we've been anything else of our history, Italy. Shut up, honestly. Sorry, sacred national anthem. Where were we?
Well, you better switch sides again.
Sorry. Italy constantly covering itself in glory. Despite everything they say about the civilized Wembley crowd, sure, come and teach us good manners again. I mean, they've got us there. You know, we're ethically the best, but for some reason our manners are the worst, and also we're losers. So, you know, yes, football and the cup are coming home to our home. Noting the booing of the Italian anthem, newspaper Corriere di San... I can't pronounce these words. Enough with this famous British sporting culture. Well, there we go. Now, the Italians, and presumably the rest of the Europeans, are looking at the sporting culture as it doesn't even win, and it's not very good. Okay, good. This is what the woke have done to our prestige, I guess you could call it. Italy's leading sports daily, La Gazzetta, said the Three Lions were dominated, we turned them into cubs. But at least you're ethically the best. It's cringe. I can't stand reading this. We were stronger than the good wishes of the Queen, the indictment of Boris Johnson, and good luck from Tom Cruise, because this time the Mission Impossible was delivered by Italian actors. Okay? It's just disappointing to read that the Italians are dunking on us. That's all I'm saying.
But that's what happens when it's issue politics. And what's the issue? Winning the game. And what happened? They won it.
Yeah, because they were more concerned about that. If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 PM UK time on lotuseaters.com.